We are here with Hair Transplant Class, part of the Hair Transplant Mentor YouTube channel. If you don't know who I am, if you've not been here before, you just heard about me or just stumbled across me, my name is Joe Tillman, sometimes referred to as the original Hair Transplant Mentor. And to understand what a Hair Transplant Mentor is, you can check it out at my website, www.hairtransplantmentor.com. I don't even know why I did that. So yeah, while you're doing your research, if you don't know what FUE is, it is follicular unit excision, and there are 4 types of this surgical procedure. The first type of FUE surgery, the original FUE surgery, is manual FUE surgery, and being manual, it sounds just like it is, or it is just like it sounds. It is a manual form of surgery that is not being assisted by any sort of motor or device, aside from the human hand and the punch that's being used to cut into the scalp. Quick fun fact, kids, FUE is the same across every type of FUE procedure that's available, in that they all use some sort of metal punch, and none of them completely free the follicular unit from your scalp. In other words, all they do is cut around the follicular unit, but the graft is still attached underneath the follicle, and they all have to be literally ripped out. I don't know if it's a fun fact, but it's a fact. But like I said, as the name implies, or the reference implies, it is a manual operation where the punch is held inside of a handle of some sort, and it's usually held between the forefinger and the thumb and rotated thusly so that the rotation is more of an oscillation that is cutting around the follicular unit as the punch is pushed into the tissues. Today in 2018, you'll find manual FUE performed by clinics that have been around for, I won't say how many years, but at least, several. And usually those clinics have also had some sort of experience with strip surgery. In other words, they're just really experienced in more of a comprehensive approach to the procedure overall. On to the second form of FUE surgery, and that is motorized FUE surgery. And with motorized FUE, we've got 2 subcategories. We've got the name brand systems and the generic systems. You'll have a handheld motor. It's all encapsulated in some sort of motor that looks kind of like a Dremel tool. So instead of the forefinger and the thumb, you have a motor that is spinning the punch instead. Now, the difference here is that with manual FUE, you've got an oscillation effect, but with the motor, you also have the option for oscillation on some models, not all of them, but you definitely have the option for continuous rotation, either clockwise or counterclockwise, and many times, most times, with variable speed settings, a few hundred RPM on up to several or even tens of thousands of RPMs. That's fast. I just realized that someone might look at this and think that they can create a do-it-yourself-at-home FUE guide. Don't do it. Now, when I talk about name brand motorized FUE systems, I'm talking about systems that were designed by doctors that have years and years of experience in the hair restoration field, including strip, but also with FUE, and have used a lot of systems to the point where they know what they want. Like this system right here is one of those systems, and it is one of the more popular systems used by better clinics. Some of the clinics I work with, and a lot of clinics I don't work with, but it is really popular and it's really expensive. These things are several $1,000s. But it's not just the handheld motor, it's also the punch, or the punches, various types of punches that can be purchased for these systems that make them so attractive. This is not to say that if you find a clinic that's using one of these name brand systems, that it's automatically going to mean you're going to have a great result. It just means that you're probably in a clinic where there is a lot of experience and they understand the benefits of this system over some no-name system as far as what they feel is important for their patients. Now, I'm not going to talk about the specific systems that are out there, but I will name some of them. There is the Hair S.A.F.E system, there is the WA system, W-A-W, there is the PCID system by Devroye Instruments, there is U-Graft, and there is the Trivillini system, which is one of the newer ones from Dr. Trivillini in Italy. They're all designed by doctors, for doctors, and they're really expensive, but there's a reason for it. And then with the second type of motorized FUE, generic motorized FUE, you've simply got these cheap little motors that only cost a few $100, and you can order them yourself online. But they're really cheap. They're made with off-the-shelf components, usually something similar to a dental drill or my Dremel. You can always use that. But generic motorized FUE is the most common type of FUE in the world. There are more of these systems in more clinics worldwide than any other system, more than manual, more than name brand motorized, more than the automated systems, and certainly more than the robot. And the reason for that is it's so cheap. It's only a few $100. Now, this is not to say that if you go to a clinic that's using one of these cheap systems that it's automatically going to be a bad result. It's just, that clinic just might feel comfortable with these. But one great question to ask, regardless of which system they're using, is to ask why they like this motorized system. And if they like this one so much, what other systems have they compared it to? If they can give you a comprehensive answer, then that's usually a good thing. Now we're getting into the fun part of this, kids. The automated FUE systems. Now, the automated FUE system was started by Neograft. Now, you've all heard of Neograft. If you haven't heard of Neograft, you haven't been looking into hair transplant surgery because they are everywhere. Is that a good thing? I'll let you decide that. But the basis for automated systems, and the way I'm classifying automated systems, are FUE motors that are all-in-one systems. They're self-contained, usually in some sort of tower type of system that's on wheels, and they usually incorporate a form of suction. Why suction? Well, they're using the suction to rip out the grafts after those grafts have been scored. Now, if you remember earlier on in this class, I was saying that all FUE, and I mean all FUE, only cuts grafts around the follicle. It does not separate the follicle from your skin tissue underneath. So with the manual and motorized FUE systems, the graft is scored, and then technicians and doctors will come in behind it, and they'll use forceps to pull those grafts out. But then with automated systems, they're using suction. The original Neograft used air suction, but now newer systems, maybe the newer version of Neograft, but definitely the Smartgraft and the S.A.F.E graft will use wet suction. In other words, they've got saline or some other liquid holding solution that's running through the tubes to create suction, and it pulls the grafts out, transfers those grafts to a reservoir on the back of the machine or side of the machine for storage until those grafts are ready to be put back into your scalp, into the incisions made by the doctor or technician. That's a key point. But some of these systems, and I won't go into which ones specifically, but some of these systems will also allow you to turn that motor around, and the suction will also be reversed, and it will grab that graft or those grafts and put them into the incision through this tubing system. Sounds great. So the question is, where do you find these systems? Neografts, Smartgrafts, S.A.F.E grafts, all the different grafts out there. Well, it depends. Some of these you will be finding in respectable and experienced hair transplant clinics, but the majority, from my observation, of clinics that have these types of systems are plastic surgeon offices or medi-spas. In other words, clinics and locations that might not have the comprehensive experience that the other clinics might have that I talked about earlier. Why is that? Well, it has to do with how these manufacturers market their devices to their clients, which are clinics. These physicians that run these clinics might not have any experience with hair transplant surgery. But when these manufacturers go to these events and conferences and trade shows where there's upwards of 3, 4, and 5,000 attendees, hair transplantation is just one more offering to put on their menu. But you don't have to take my word for it. You can listen to this plastic surgeon talking about the benefits of having outsourced technicians perform the procedure for her while she's in another room doing consultations for other types of procedures.
They're essential. They offer that opportunity for geo-targeting. An example, what is Facebook AdWords? Graft or follicular unit extraction restoration for hair, another great passive revenue stream. This is outsourced to an expert team of technicians that come in from Dallas. They do it in my operating room when I'm seeing patients. So on Tuesdays, Thursdays, they're doing Smartgraft and producing income for me while I'm doing patient consultations. So that's a great Facebook ad-worthy thing because a lot of men search online for those sensitive topics like hair loss and ED.
So the question becomes, where do you find these kinds of systems? Well, the majority of these systems are going to be found in medi-spas and plastic surgeon offices where normally they don't specialize or maybe even don't even have experience with hair transplant surgery at all. The caveat is that there are experienced hair transplant physicians, some with 20 plus years performing really good work, that have decided to use these systems. So this isn't a blanket statement, but it's a pretty strong one about where you can generally expect to find these kinds of procedures or systems. And finally, we've got the ARTAS. Yes, the big hulking robot that is not quite as big as it used to be. And the thing about the ARTAS is that it can improve based on firmware updates, or as they push them out, as algorithm updates, because it's the algorithm that's controlling a lot of what the robot sees and what it can do as far as picking and choosing better grafts. Now, some of the improvements that the system's had over the years are not just algorithm updates, but also improvements to the punch design, the punch size, which is a big deal. And another development is that the machine can actually make incisions into your scalp based on parameters that you and your doctor decide upon using software, and a whole bunch of other calculations for density, all this stuff. I mean, there's so much involved with it that I'm not going to get into it, but I mean, I think that the robot is really cool. I've seen it in action. This is the 8X from a couple years ago, and you can see that in this office, the doctor's involved, he's controlling, he's got his little control pad, he's watching everything on a 4K TV so he can see the detail, and he's guiding the machine to do what he wants it to do. And these are found in all kinds of clinics worldwide. They started off by pushing themselves into established clinics, which was the right thing to do, but they've moved on to clinics that may not have as much experience as the clinics that first jumped on board with ARTAS to begin with. There's so much more in that, but you will find this robot in all kinds of different clinics. You'll find them in experienced clinics. You will find them in inexperienced clinics. You will find them in plastic surgery offices. You will find them in hair transplant specialist offices. At this point, in late 2018, you will find probably more of these in plastic surgeon offices, like the automated FUE systems, than you will long-term, comprehensively experienced hair transplant clinics. Now, again, not judging this machine whatsoever, not judging the automated machines at all, motorized or even manual FUE, that's what this comes down to. You need to understand the experience of the hands, not so much the quality of the device. That is the message here. That's what you need to understand. You need to understand the experience, you need to understand the motivation, you need to understand why the clinic, or we'll say the clinic of your choice, is using the tool that they're using. So with all that said, I'm going to give you 7 questions, or potentially 7 questions. It depends on the type of system that your chosen clinic for consultation is using, but it starts like this. Number 1, why do you use this particular FUE system over the other 3 systems that are available to you on the market? Now, in this case, they're going to give you any number of reasons, and at this point, you just have to take it for face value. but it gets the conversation going. But this next question is really interesting. If you like this system so much over the other systems available, which of the other systems available have you actually used? Because when you ask this question, it's letting the doctor or the consultant know that you're not the average patient and you've actually been reading up on things. Which leads us to the next question. How long have you been performing hair transplant surgery before you even started using this particular device? The next question is really simple. Are you or the doctor you're working for performing the hair transplant procedure for me, or is it going to be performed by technicians? And the next question is a doozy, and this might be where you see the doctor or the consultant's face turn white, or maybe red. Are the technicians that are going to be performing my hair transplant, if it is technicians, licensed to perform surgery in the state or province where you're having your hair transplant? Now, there is no license to perform hair transplant surgery, but there is licensure to perform surgery, to cut skin, which is a big deal in many places. Now, this next question is for clinics and doctors that are using automated devices, and it is an extremely important question. On your website, are the before and after photos of patient results your patients, or are they patient results presented and provided by the manufacturer of your automated FUE device? This question is important because a lot of clinics that use automated devices are using photos not of their own patients, but of patients of other clinics provided by the manufacturer of that device. In fact, if you find a clinic that's using one of these automated devices, I challenge you to do an image search for some of the results and see how many other clinics are using those same photos. You won't see this on every clinic website, but you will see it on a lot of them. So if that last question produces the answer, no, these are not my photos, and yes, they were provided by the manufacturer, and you're still in that clinic, then you got one more question to ask. And that question is simple. Are the technicians that are responsible for these results, whether they're from your clinic or from the manufacturer's scrapbook, will those technicians be performing surgery on me, or will it be some, like, do you even know who these technicians are? Do you know who, do you know what their experience is? Do you know what their cases are like? And I think that that's important. Well, I would say for obvious reasons, but unfortunately it's not obvious reasons. No two people can do the same hair transplant procedure the same. In other words, it's a highly specialized procedure that's part artistic and part scientific. And the results will never be the same between two people. There are people that do great jobs, people that do not so great jobs, but no two people do the same job alike. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, to summarize, there are 4 types of FUE: manual, motorized, automated, and robotic. And all of them are only tools. And of course, the tool is only as good as the hand that wields it. So it's up to you to find out if the hand that wields that particular tool is experienced enough to give you the result that you want and deserve. It's really important. So I hope that you learned something from this video. I feel it's really important. This is actually a pretty important video. Of course, I hope you think all of my videos are important, but this one's a big one. And so as always, if you like this video, click like. If you haven't subscribed yet, what the hell's wrong with you? Subscribe and click the bell for updates when new videos are provided. So with that, I am out of here. It has been a long one. My voice is going. Peace.